much pressure, too much pleasure, but not much to rely on. Your love ain't free, it's killing me. I want it to end all, 'cause I've been trying, I've been waiting for so long. I'm waiting.
Welcome back to the fields in Wrocław, Poland, because of course, folks, you've been keeping up with the action here at the European Ultimate Championship Finals 2023. Myself, Hannah Pendlebury, along the call with me, for now, Benjamin Rees, who will shortly metamorphise into a Rachel Douglas. But we have a women's quarter-final matchup for you. It is Mooncup trying to best defending champions BFD Shout of Bologna, and it is going to be quite the game, Benji, don't you think?
It should be. Both of these sides have shown their quality this tournament. Shout with a bit of an upset in that first game, going down on Universe to box, but able to bounce back, take the top spot in the pool and seal their quarter-final place. For Mooncup, they lost a tight one to Yaka at the end of the day yesterday, but a consummate victory in their pre-quarter-final against 3SB sees them take on the Italians here.
Well, of course, having qualified with the first berth coming from that region, that blend of the east and north, if I remember correctly, or are they coming from central?
Central, I think.
That's the Badger. Well, in any case, wonderful to see Mooncup qualifying through. A little bit of a surprise to themselves. Of course, they bested Tequila Boom Boom in that final at the European regional qualifiers. They have gone on to strength. You already mentioned that Universe point finish against Yaka, last year's finalists, who were handily put away by BFD Shout. But for Shout, talking to their coaches ahead of this game, Benji, it is all about this championship blooding their new talent, getting those younger players, those younger athletes involved with their big superstars. You see Bengi there, the number 37. Watch out for her. Pancotti. Also, yeah, hold on. Is it Pancotti? No, Sorrenti, the number 5 for BFD Shout this season. There are so many amazing athletes, though, on Shout. They've picked up Martina Kmetsova this season, Lasma Kubliczka, and, of course, everyone's favourite German rising star, Charlotte Schall.
Not a bad 3. I mean, if you could say we want to pick 3 players to kind of cover all bases from the female matching talent pool, I think those are 3, you know, pretty high-valued picks.
Indeed, but looking across the field to Mooncatchers, of course, they've ended up with some extra talent alongside, notably some rather famous Ultimate playing sisters.
They have indeed Eva and Lisson Bourneau, the French World Games standouts, fresh off a gold medal, of course, with France mixed at EUC. Yeah.
They're sort of Europe's equivalent answer to the Cardenas twins, no?
Yeah, probably, actually. Except somehow even younger.
Well, how old are they at the moment, Benji?
Lisson is 22 and Ava's still just 20.
Indeed, so not quite twinning it, but you'll see how similar the two of them look as they appear on this roster. Lisson Bourneau will be wearing the number 18 shirt, and the other Bourneau sister, if I can find her on our roster, well, she's somewhere amongst the pack. Anyway, Mooncup to start on offense in the black shirts. So you see Rahali popping across to Bono. Bison looking upfield. This is a great defensive effort, and that's the long arms of Susanna Casarini that's going to get up in the mixer and give us a short field turn. The Latvian Kublicka that we mentioned just a few moments ago. Casual pushing toss pass over the top. Now, Rabaglia. I'll tell you what, Sara Rabaglia, got to watch it. There's a replay where I think there's someone that maybe fakes an injury as a celebration, and she has the moment of gasp and concern, and then walks away when she realizes she's been done.
Rookie error. Rookie error.
Casarini with the disc in hand after getting that block. So that will return to Rabaglia.
Rahali just double checking what the stall count should be.
And back in action. Rabaglia has options available, just squeaks it to the near sideline though for Casarini. Sort of flustering all around, playing slightly softer defense. Oh, there's the other. A little bit behind, but well kept by Kublicka. Oh, and a nice high release, but it's going to be a little bit too far. You can see the wind direction has changed here in the stadium fields. This morning it was upwind, downwind. Now it's sort of a weird, swirly, blustery, crosswind changing affair. Rollet looking for options, has the streaking form of that number 13, Eva Borno. Well, there you go, 13 and 18. Watch out for those numbers if you're a fan of those sisters. But Cristo Flini getting up in the mixer. Rabaglia. Kublicka well defended. Casarini now. Looking for the inside shot, Rabaglia. Call with a foul, maybe a push off there. Beatrice Lefebvre saying she got a little bit too much contact before Rabaglia received that central pass. And we have been joined in the booth by a certain Rachel Douglas.
Hi, Hanny. Hi, everyone. Excited to be here.
Oh, absolutely.
Sorry for being late.
You've hot-footed it across from a universe point finish in the mixed pre-quarterfinals. How was
the mixed quarterfinals?
Mixed quarters, that's what I meant to say.
It was a hot and very exciting game, and if you haven't seen it, I recommend you go and check it out.
Indeed. Well, that one went not quite as far overtime as our first round of the day, which of course had Nulacht and Savage playing off. But yeah, the mixed division, really a tussle to get yourselves into the pointy end. But that's an amazing layout bid coming underneath Heather Borno. Or is it the 4 of Colline Chartrain? No, it is Chartrain. Very similarly statured though. Nice movement across. Now it is a Borno. Or is it Bor? Yes, in the front corner. Yeah, absolutely. Eva Borno collecting that one. There's going to be a little bit of a discussion, though, perhaps a little bit of traffic elsewhere. So back in the hands of, I think that's Rahali. It's, no, it's not Rahali. It's a Moon training tank, but Rahali now squirreling around for their reset. Chinking in front for Borno, but that's going to be picked off by Rabaglia. Casarini now. Oh, a big reach in the back pocket, but that is going to go to turf. Well, lots of trading of possession. Cristolafini. Single hand grab for Rollet. Salom Rollet, low pivot. But that's going to miss Colline Chartrain, the 21-year-old from Pornichet. So Rabaglia reaches forth to Sucha. Kublicka with a cheeky pop. But not too much action upfield, trying to stretch into the deep space. High grab for Cristolafini. Oh, that's a lash laser backhand coming out of the arm of Kublicka. You can see the frustration here for both teams, but that one is going to dribble out of bounds far, far away from the intended target, who turned back.
Yeah, unfortunately, it felt like none of the component parts were there for that shot. It sort of faked it initially and then decided to do a sort of high release leading pass, almost huck into that side, but the cut was no longer there, change of direction, and that's just gonna go out of bounds.
Inside to Lefebvre. Oh no. To Chatrin. Little dish in front, nice and cheeky. Rahali now. That one's going to be a bridge too far, but collected with a huge save from Borneau. Although she makes it look very workmanlike. Everett with the inside break. Oh, and there's the secondary effort, but that is just a little bit undercooked. And Chatrin unable to collect it. So back on offense again. I've actually legitimately forgotten who started this one on offense. I think with the personnel of the field, it's got to be Mooncup. Confirmed by stats keeping Benji Rees. He's disappeared to the shadows, keeping us informed. Suja. Hop through. This is now much more flowing motion. Labadria now. A little bit movement now. Accorsi. To Trucha. And a timeout called in the first point. I like that call by Susanna Casarini, but my oh my, what a long point. Already 10 minutes expired.
Yeah, an absolute grinder. Seems as though interesting timeout call, making sure they have able to reset themselves, but they'd already worked it halfway up the field, so they will take a timeout on the field. We see the massive defensive effort there.
Yeah, it has been largely though, rather than really truly getting big old blocks on each other, there have been a significant number of unforced errors as well, just some miscues on the throws. Another look at that big redemption plate from Borneau. Last minute communication with Salome Rollet. And this the undercooked one that should have been the goal for Chatrin, but that will wrap us up for the highlights at that point. It will continue. How long for? We don't know, but let's find out after a brief break. First half, first point, 0-0 on the board, and we are nearly a quarter of an hour into this game. It's a 90-minute time slot here in the knockout rounds at the European Ultimate Championship finals, but tell you what, this is not the ideal start for either side, whether you're a Mooncup starting on offense or a Shout starting on defense. But of course, Shout had a weird start to the tournament. That Universe Point loss, shocker, to a pretty well-tooled Vienna box team.
Yeah, but we do have to remember they did still top the pool, so they haven't played a game this morning, whereas Mooncup have already had to see off 3 SB in their pre-quarter, meaning that, okay, they might have slightly more tired legs, but they've already kind of done a lot of the work to warm up and get their heads in the game today, and have sort of drilled together.
Well, certainly that game was an advantage for Mooncup as they saw it. It was a chance to really blend together. Of course, they've got two solid different lines to look at. Their coach that they picked up, Lancriet, Ine Lancriet, of course, of Belgian Open Under-24s fame, stepping up to help them at this championship. Not a big fan of static offense, but that one is some disc gone astray. Cristofolini unable to clutch that one. So again, Glorieux this time. Get that one started. Up to Chartrand. Zipper on the far sideline, but well covered by the bread box of Kubliczka. And a quick counter attack, but a casual one hand goes up for Gaia Stucha. And that will give possession and half field for Mooncup. A round break to Koenig. High. And there we go, at long last the point concludes. It's a burn and turn or a timeout, turn out, time over for Shout, and the first hold of the game. Gritty, 12 turnovers and 15 minutes for Mooncup, and that will see them keep momentum / take some momentum. What is going on, Doug?
I'm not sure, yeah, we can talk about keeping momentum in the first point of the game. That certainly feels like that's it's often really important for sort of which team comes away with the point after a really long grinding game. I don't know if in the first point of the game it's going to be as pivotal as it can be if it's later on.
I think it's an interesting statement, isn't it? Because if you're Shout's D-line, it's okay, well, we can definitely generate a lot of turns on this team, but we've got some questions that are being asked of our ability to actually punch them in when we get our opportunities. That's a lot of break chances that you've now squandered. It's going to be a hard ask to move those percentages up. But certainly for the other side of things, if you're Mooncup, it's okay, we've held on, but I think there's a natural advantage of momentum because you win the toss, you start on offense, you put it in. But yeah, not the biggest to carry them through all the way, of course, especially at this quarterfinal stage. Bit of sagging into the lanes from Mooncup's defenders. And interesting to see. We've got the inclusion of Charlotte Schall on the O-line as well as Anna Cheshki, but that one is going to escape Chiara Lolli. And a short field opportunity here for Mooncup. Are we going to get another back and forth battle? Harris with the spin move, and there is a quick punch in. Well, that is some momentum taking. That looks to be Perrine D'Asp with the goal, and Julia Harris, of course, represented Belgium in the women's division at EUC with the goal.
The offensive setup of Shout there, they sort of had their offensive handlers set quite wide, which, you know, that's often a kind of a thing that teams look to do, but with this Italian side, you know, from Shout, what we've often seen is them really driving through that central space. Hannah's getting quite involved, making sort of small movements in small spaces, but jinking to get free and kind of really working it up through lots of quick give and goes. And that feels like a different setup for a different style of play. You know, if they're going to set that wide and look to do those really arcing swings, that's a totally valid approach, but it does seem to sort of be a slightly different look than what we've seen from Shout in so far this season and in previous seasons, and I wonder if that's them sort of making their offense a bit more versatile, trying to expand the looks they have, or potentially it might just be a sort of, you know, in this moment they set up a bit far. So it'll be interesting to see how they adapt, because at the moment they seem to be struggling with that. And I mean, that was just one instance of a kind of an overthrow on the swing, but didn't give them the opportunities to make the moves they would usually be making.
Well, there's a pit call upfield that may see a rewind on that pass from Bengi to Charlotte Schall. Interestingly, we saw in the early season that all of the international athletes coming across to this Shout roster were pretty much playing together solely on the D-line, but we see the inclusion here alongside the likes of Sorrenti, Bengi, Cheshki et al. You've got a Charlotte Schall and a Martina Kmetsova. Cheshki underneath. Connects with Marcassini. Lovely high release lead. Bancotti into Kmetsova. Charlotte Shaw has Bengi with acreage. Goes for the spin move, but a little bit too much traffic. Going to have the reset. Oh, but Elena Bengi, great separation. Matched up with Charlotta Terrason. Lovely to see her back on the field, but is going to be a Sorrenti goal.
Yeah, not sure what we've been looking at in the first couple of points, but that is a shout offense. That's the way they play. That quick movement, attacking down the middle, there's short leading passes, making sure the defense never really get a chance to get set. That's what we know to expect from them. And that's what seemed to just be at odds with the way they were setting up their offense in the previous point. But here we see them getting into the flow, getting moving, and just a few more like that, and hopefully they'll kind of find their feet in this game and make sure they're not having these long grinding points, and if they get the turns, as we saw in that first point, that they're able to put them in.
Oh, lovely dishing, giving and going, and Ciao across the pond to a person I'm sure is watching this coverage, and that is Irene Scazzieri.
Conspicuously missing from the roster sheet.
Well, it's interesting because there was actually in previous seasons, of course, Anna Czeszki went and played in North Carolina. She was studying there, and she actually had a little GoFundMe campaign to help her get back to join Shout for the European Championship Series. But of course, Irene Scazzieri playing with Fury this year. They have got themselves through to USA Nationals, so she's going to stay stateside and just give all the good vibes from across the pond. And of course, Sofia Scazzieri also not present on the field for Shout this season. Borno with the stall count starting to rise is forced to take that easy dip reset to Tekunik. Negative yards, but it's all still fine. Bolle now. It's being pinned by the zone. Good choice from the Italians. Tekunik with a fake that really does seem to sell. Pagliarini playing at the tip of that zone. Oh, and there is the forced error. Pagliarini with that bigger wingspan, just about, not the biggest player in the world, but forces the pressure. Difficult reset to execute to this near sideline. Pagliarini, just a big backhand roll curve into the path of Giulia Baroni. And that is a really quick counter attack. We are back on serve, 1 break and 2 scores each.
Yeah, that feels like that's exactly what Shout needed, like a bit of a palate cleanser, a bit of a refresh. That's 1 offensive point and 1 defensive point that went basically exactly as it should go. The zone being hugely effective there at shutting down any downfield movement, forcing the reset, forcing them to take an option that wasn't ideal, and then ultimately making an execution error on that one and getting the turn for a quick score. So that's exactly what they would have wanted from both of those last points, and a nice reset from the scrappy opening points where they went 2 down, but now back tied up at 2s.
So after some, to be brutally honest, sloppy action in the first point with those 12 turnovers, we have had 2 since, both punished with break shot opportunities. Another look at that goal for Giulia Baroni. It's very tight under pressure. Casarini is going to put up a big pull that's going to land well out of bounds and will be brought in at the break mark by Eva Borno, who's wearing well, I'm not sure if they're exactly the same shoe, just in different colours, but it's a real vibe because she's got matching socks as well. But the break mark probably a little bit shy of where it should be depth-wise, because it should be a little bit further than that. But I digress. players happy to continue regardless. Again, we see in utilization of the zone, the Italian playbook is very deep, has lots of different varieties to try and deny you what you prefer. But Mooncup, with excellence in throwing prowess across the board, are not going to be spooked by it. Using their legs to push through, keep things moving. Did a bit of give-go action, now the lateral. Aviel with the lefty backhand into the wind. Rahali low but caught by De Koning. Now Borno. Nice flat flick in front. De Koning again. Borno racing away and makes the goal, immediately scored by signalled by Lasmo Kruvlička, who was basically just left for dust.
So unable to get purchase on that point. Mooncup slicing through, moving the disc very, very quickly, finding those inside angles to hit, getting those little kind of dishes right into the middle of the field, and then, as you mentioned, moving that nice sort of lateral pass that really opens the field up and puts the whole of the defense on the back foot. Slightly sort of scrappy looking offense, but very, very effective. And keeps it moving, and just not really ever giving Shout the opportunity to really close and clamp it down like they did in the previous point.
Well, De Koning there, one of the perhaps lesser known players, despite her decade of experience on this side. Age of 36, so she came to the sport a lot later than most did. Says in brackets she didn't play at school because she started too late, but not too late to grab herself a mixed Europeans appearance, Worlds in 2016, and of course the Flying Rabbits Spirit Champions from Cincinnati 2018. But Charles coming underneath with a very intense matchup in the form of Lison Borno. Didn't get to see too much of the French on German action at EUC. We were denied it, but that pass is also denied. Chiara Capucci trying to get low and keep possession. That's how you do it. An action roll for Borno. Through to Harris. There's isolation upfield, but not too much movement into useful spaces from Leduc. Stall out being called fairly firmly. Shooting into the goal anyway. Borno makes the redemption, but that is definitely going to come back for a discussion at the very least.
Yeah, I think I even through my headphones here, I think I heard her say 10 and signal stall out quite a lot before that throw went out.
Well, they have an ability to watch it back if they wanted to, but I think they're now talking about a oh no, they're talking about the release, not in marking infraction.
Well, that's a very interesting resolution to call it a goal. It definitely seemed from this angle that there was a stall out called, but perhaps the argument is if there was a call of contact or some other marking violation before, then it should have been dropped. And rather than calling violation, she played on. But yeah, that's an interesting resolution, and to be so quick about the resolution as well. I'll be interested to hear what they discussed, but maybe we can get insight into that a little bit later.
Okay, so okay, so what we've got then, if I understand correctly, is that Julia Harris called contact and then thought she'd retracted it. You don't have to retract the contacts call. That's why contact exists. It's a sort of a lesser variety of, you have fouled me, but I would not like the play to stop. Sort of to nullify the old school approach of deliberately bumping on the mark. So it sounds like, Rachel, she didn't hear the fact that Chiara Lolli had called a stall out, didn't really receive that information.
Yeah, it can be difficult. I think I heard it, and I also saw the hand signal. Obviously, was looking directly at them, so we'd see the hand signal, whereas the player with the disc is not looking at the mark, is looking downfield. But yeah, sometimes even when it's said right next to you, it can be hard for that to kind of register. But now it's going to be a slightly messier one to resolve as we've got all of the Mooncup team on the field getting ready to set up for the next point, which unfortunately turns out we're not there yet. We need to retract a bit. So that's now going to be a contested stall out.
So coming in, maximum stalling 8. Of course, a foul, slightly different maximum stall, because that's a maximum stalling 6. Fun facts. Well, it's definitely one I'm going to star in my notebook. I'm going to come back and assess this one and have a real think about the rules and how this one should play out.
Yeah, if the contact was retracted, then the stall count stands.
Hence the contested stall. So Harris throws on 9.5. And what a snag for Perrine de Hasp over the top. Bourneau now, who made that huge redemption, which we'll get to watch back for the ages because it stands on the live stream. De Hasp again. A little bit of a collision. Harris sort of just driving towards that front cone, but they play on through it. Bourneau, inside shot, goes well over the pack, but redeemed. Oh, and that's nasty. Friendly fire underneath it. Terrasson and Leduc just coming together. Friendly fire, and that is a self-strip by 2 on the same team. I don't think there were any defenders really between that sandwich.
Yeah, that contact is Mooncup player coming in against Mooncup player, and it can be hard to, you know, you're used to feeling contact on the field, then sort of resolving it with your opposing team. But actually, in that instance, you just got to accept, as you say, friendly fire.
Yeah, Terrasson just coming in. You can see she takes a big old knock to the head. Of course, hopefully she can remain in fine fettle. It's been a big grind back post ACL tear, second ACL tear for the young Swiss athlete. But it's a delight to have her out of the booth and back on the field where you can say she belongs. But there you go, that fist bump from De Haas. She got a big old piece of that one, and that is why it ended up in the turf. So Bourneau to pick up, matching up against Charlotte Schau. Schau with a nice tight active mark. Sneaks one away. Harris with the low clap catch. De Hasp has Harris available on the around. Terrasson now coming back out. Switching out the marks. Bengi taking out the matchup with Leduc. That's a decent frame for frame, but just shows how lofty those long arms are. And Terrasson just sneaking away from the matchup. Too much switching causes errors for the defense, and that is a break back again for Mooncup. Turns out everyone wants to twin this game at the moment. It's runs of 2.
Yeah, I'm sure both teams will kind of be glad just to get that resolved. Obviously, Shout thinking that should have come back in with them and having opportunities, but just Mooncup just showing that little bit extra level of grit, able to get the turn back and put that one in. As you say, runs of 2. Both teams it still feels a bit like they're finding their feet in this game. Like there's sort of a scrappiness, and of course we're looking at some really, really tight defense, which does mean that, you know, some of the throws are going to be less certain, and you really have to make sure of your options and set your cuts up well. But both sides, we've seen a number of turns throughout the game, and both sides probably just looking to figure out what they can do to make sure that when they have the disc, they're just treasuring the possession that little bit more.
Well, looking at the other matchups in this 1-8 bracket, we currently have Yaka and Iceni, with Yaka 5-1 up on the British team. We've got, of course, this game in front of us. Jinx and Box Vienna going toe-to-toe, currently almost leveled up. 5-4, so a slight advantage for the Viennese, and East Block and Troubles Warsaw all even Steven 3 apiece, but that is a big swing and a miss in the center field, and a huge opportunity for Mooncup to try and go 3 on the bounce. De Hasp gonna find Bourneau. Plenty of pressure on it, and that wind just pushing it down in the last moment. Getting the match up with Charlotte Schall though, and the furious hand. You can see the temptation for Schall to pick up the disc, because of course the central handler role is what she plays mostly, but that one is way out of contention. Martina Kmetsova, an amazing athlete, but that was thrown absolutely nowhere near her. Bit of a shocker. You can hear the dulcet tones of Davide Mori, who's sidelining for Shout rather than Lafota, who are playing elsewhere right now against Alba. That game decided not tasty enough for the likes of the ULTI.TV stream, because of course on our field one you have the lovely Clapham Wall City battle, which is all tied up last I checked. So Terrason matched up against Kmetsova. The two spent a lot of time with each other at the disc-in camp. Recommend you get yourself to that affair. It's a really lovely time. Improve yourself, but that is not an improvement on the last pass that went astray for Shout. They really are just playing below their abilities, I think, in this game so far. Very reminiscent of their first game of yesterday. So maybe they needed that one round of a not buy to get their form here, but that's a great layout form, but no connection for Borno. Cheshki, Kmetsova. Looking for the give goes between the two tall athletes. Now to Schall. Dishes to Bengi. This is actually a very tall line in general for Shout. Big old bump. That one goes back to the corner, back to the tape, sorry. Marchesini throwing Anna Cheshki open a little bit there. And the star of BFD Shout's program for such a long time now collects that one just at the last moment and prevents the run of three for Mooncup.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like Shout are just lacking that kind of like seasoned stewardship at the moment. They don't have perhaps some of the players that they've really counted on to kind of anchor their offense and kind of anchor the way that they want to play. So players like Anna Cheshki absolutely can and do fill that role, but perhaps just needing to kind of position themselves a bit more centrally and sort of take a bit more control over the pace and the dynamics of the Shout offense.
Well, speaking of Shout, that was some passionate expression from Davide Mori. His intensity starting to rise a little bit. Just calling the line that he wants. Mooncup still in their huddle. So we will sneak a very brief break in here. No? Our producer says no. We're going to stay with the action. And instead, a message from our Woof sponsors, as we enjoy a little bit more of that passion of the Mr. Mori. Though if you've ever seen inside that man's stats book, and that's not a euphemism, his stats that he takes from these games put even ULTI.TV stats keepers to absolute shame. But he is always willing to share it. He takes all of the stats, you know, how the pole lands, where it is, how quickly the turnovers happen. At the moment, it really is Shout giving up the disc, short field, and very early in these points where they're conceding.
For such a sort of a comprehensive list of the game movements and such a sort of treasured clipboard, he does throw it on the floor a lot. So if you did want to sneak a look, I'm sure at certain points in the game, you could just pop by the sideline and find it where it's been launched into the grass as the passion overtakes him.
It's heavy duty.
I'm sure he's got through his fair share of clipboards. Seems like a man that might have a standing account with Staples.
He's got it on Amazon subscription. You know, it just comes through every week.
Gets his monthly subscription of 10 clipboards just to make it through the training sessions.
But obviously a bit of a caricature at this stage in his ultimate career. Of course, moving from La Fota to the Red Bulls, surrounding himself with youth talent. But there is no question in anyone's mind, really, of the level of passion and input that Mori has put into the Italian ultimate scene, but handing the torch over to the next generation of rising stars, of course, because he's now starting to focus on some other things, but still will be present. That's enough airtime devoted to a male coach in the women's division, and just one of a set for this BFD Shout program. Oh, but that's a nice bit of poaching, blocking. Baroni getting the fingertips in. Rabaglia now. This is a similar line to that which took quite some time to punch it in the first point of this game. Casarini is available, has a little bit of a poach off, but it's too late to find her. Rabaglia now instead from Pagliarini. That's going to be called a strip, I think.
Frozen in motion.
She's just thinking about it, isn't she?
Yeah, definitely, just reflecting.
Yeah, that's. I think that's quite clearly still in the hand when the arm of Salome Kholé flops it away.
Good effort, good heads up, trying to make sure that throw doesn't go out, but unfortunately, just a millisecond too soon. That did seem to still be in their hands.
Well, another of these young athletes is Kholé. She's just 20 years old. We'll have the discussion. Bit more dog cam for your action. Of course, this Wrocław Sports Complex allows us some doggos, and that's a view from the front of the doggos. You get to see the fabulous ears. Bit of an elongated discussion. I think this one needs to be contested at this stage, Rachel.
Yeah, some mixed hand signals, unclear if that's contested or uncontested, but it's coming in, and as long as they know what's going on.
Well, Rabaglia squeezes one out, and again, it's a really low release. There isn't too much wind, but I think probably Shout can release a little bit higher because they are seeing a lot of their discs go into the turf. Kind of similar vibes to watching some of the Tequila Boom Boom players in the first game here this morning in the stadium. But the sun is starting to emerge from the clouds and beat down, getting the temperature up. Oh, that just sneaks past the open waiting hand of Giovanni even. Borno giving and going. This is explosion of the defense. They're trying to fight back against Mooncup. I think it was some sort of zone affair. Oh, that's a peach of an inside flick, but it's going to sail way over the head. It looks like Rahali from this distance.
Yeah, so the throw in isolation was nice, but it just didn't seem to be the right option for getting it to that player. It either needed to be significantly lower and right in the gut, or it needed to be a kind of a different shape and sitting out a little bit more into the space of the end zone. That was quite sort of high and right sort of directly to that far end zone. So either needs to be very, very, very precise, or a sort of a different look entirely.
Well, a continuation of the current rhythm would be a break here for Shout, and that's going to escape into the hands of Casarini. Really fantastic put. I think that was from Pagliarini. And a great pick as well out of the air, Casarini. Pops it back. Pagliarini shoots, and that is indeed the break back. Well, well, well. This game is like the ocean. It's coming in waves of breaks.
Yeah, that's, as you called it early on, the twos continue. Shout doing a great job to get their flowing movement quickly going downfield, and a nice big shot to open it up, really well read.
It is really strange, isn't it? There are some moments where the offense flows so quickly, and some where it seems stodgy, like a thick cake that's been slightly undercooked. But a timeout has been called on the field. We'll take a brief break too, and get to some sponsors.
He's in a great spot. He's in a perfect spot. Yes, his massive head has blocked everything. That was a huge play, but we have seen none of it. Finny, he's done it.
Well, apparently we only have the one. No, kidding. We have lots of sponsors, and of course, most importantly, our coverage is funded in part, not in total. We're not living the full dream yet, but in part certainly by our wonderful patron community. I know many of you watching are already patrons. If you're not already, if you have any spare euros in your budget per month, please do consider becoming a patron of Ultimate Coverage. Of course, this is how we have managed to keep all of our game footage live to watch, free, and also on demand. But certainly, if you want more dog cam, things like that, you can certainly send us that. But if you do not have any cents to spare, then you can be the sensible person, pun intended, and also click that like and subscribe button. Thumbs up this game. I see nearly 250,000 people watching, so i.e. nearly 250 of you. Lots of love in the live chat, but only 11 people have thumbs up this game, Rachel.
Yeah, we're both, as Hanny and I both reached down to give it the thumbs up on our computers. Of course, the ULTI.TV coverage keeps European Ultimate available for consumption no matter where you are, brings you so many great tournaments, so please do consider joining the Patreon, even if it's just a couple of euros a month. Every little helps, and if you cannot, which we understand, times are tough, make sure you are liked and subscribing, or subscribed and liking all the videos.
Indeed, and to be fair, even if you don't have any kilojoules, or you don't maybe have your own account to like and subscribe, you can also just say hello and thank you to all of our hard-working camera operators and commentators at any event that we are covering. We love the love, and we can give it right back. We can either give you hugs or not give you hugs, depending on which you'd prefer, but that is a spoil, a straight stone cold drop. And a real opportunity here for Shout. That would be our first on of 3 in a row, but they miss it because at the last moment, it of course is a Borno just streaking through to deny. No. Now Harris with a nice move all the way around against this sagging cup defense. Taking advantage of the direction of the wing, currently diagonally left to right. Bono. Now Dasp. Just trotting around looking for options. Role is a tempting target for an ambitious lateral move. Now Terrason sort of sitting in that soft pocket. Good spacing across, and there we go. That's a lovely find. Role putting that one softly, silkily, smoothly through to Terrason. A throw on the go, though, and a misconnection. Der Hasp turns around, but that was never enough from the palm of Borno.
Yeah, dangerous to keep some of those fast movements going. You've really got to make sure you have the focus, and after a couple of those quick passes, trying to put a longer one in, just not able to get the right shape, the right sit, the right direction for that one.
Well, Kmetsova poached off. Takes the slightly riskier one to the end zone, but double cutting. You can really see the experimentation with the lines here for Shout, kind of seeing them get into some tricky territory, and that one indeed drops out of the hand of Venturi. Role now to Borno, matched up with Kubliczka, who nearly loses her footing and now puts on a very intense mark. Oh, there's the layout snag! The foul is going to be called, but with both players bidding, there's not really any room other than the one that Marcassini had already committed to. A foul on the throw will send it back regardless, I think. That was a very close mark from Lasma Kubliczka. Let's get another look. A little bit of a truck on the back of that one actually at the last moment, but
it's a bit of a difficult one because it does look like Shout are taking a straight line to the disc there, and it's actually kind of the the curve from the Mooncup player.
Yeah, I think Harris adjusts at the very last minute to the throw, whereas Marcassini is in front. She doesn't manage to make it completely cleanly, but it comes back on a foul on the throw for Borno. Kmetsova, though, surely going to pick that off. Indeed, she does, and strides it to the front of the end zone over the head of the Hasp, because look at that height mismatch. Baroni now pops through to Pagliarini, who chucked them out of jail in the last point. Feathery fake from Kmetsova. Now she'll take what she's given. Of course, being such a tall athlete, doesn't have any options downfield when she gets the disc on this near sideline, though. Perhaps a little bit of tiredness creeping in, but throwing into traffic, and Borno, couple of meters if that to go, and there we go into the end zone. De Koning with the goal puts that one on the board in favour of Mooncup. They retain the lead in this game 5-4, but that was very strange. Why weren't Shout cutting deep, Rachel?
It feels like there might be a kind of a lack of chemistry, and I don't know if it's across the sort of the offensive lines, or if it might just be that a few players maybe haven't played as much together. Hard to say. We don't know the specifics of who's been at what trainings, but it does really seem like Shout sort of having the disc. Occasionally we've seen some really lovely flowing offense from them that's really aligned with their usual style of play, but in that point we could just see it just felt a bit awkward. You'd have multiple people cutting at the same time into the same space, both in the dump space and also downfield, multiple people coming under for the same disc, and just doesn't seem like they've sort of got that awareness of where each other are and what they want to do, and making sure there are multiple options hitting and attacking different areas of the field at once. So it's just really limiting what they're able to bring together, and making it much harder for the handlers to find good options.
Well, Ilaria Bonfante will bring the disc to the break mark. We have seen the Bolognese offense improving point to point, so maybe they'll get a change in the rhythm here and get 2 offensive holds. But that one was a big old momentum point as well for Mooncup, because that took 3 turnovers apiece. Oh, and this is lovely stuff, actually. Really solid movement. Bengi streaking up that line. Now Bonfante to Pancotti. Oh, that's a beautiful throw. Gaia Pancotti even to Anna Czeski. A connection for the ages. And indeed, we get a change up of the rhythm. 2 trades.
Yeah, and I wonder, perhaps this line does feel like when they're on the field, they're very much in control of how the offense are moving, the spacing. They know what each other are looking for. We see some really good options, varied, some undercuts and some deep cuts. Anna Czeski going deep with miles of separation, and that was such a well-weighted throw. Perhaps it feels a bit like some of the names that we're more used to seeing on the Shout roster are perhaps slightly more stacked onto this line, and the other line, as we mentioned, might just be lacking that kind of experience and stewardship. But it's early in the game still. They're just finding their feet. The score line is 5-5, so we don't want to sort of get away from ourselves. This is still very much a competitive game, but yeah, just waiting for the sort of the Shout offense to click. Mooncup, I feel like have been fairly consistent. They're still playing quite scrappy, but they're sort of getting the job done as and when is needed. But I think from both sides, just needing to kind of tighten up on their once they've got that turnover, if they want to really try and get ahead in this game and pull away with it, someone's going to have to start getting turns and converting. Otherwise, we're just going to serve.
So a short pull will give an enviable half field by the looks of the gesturing from Eva Bourneau. There haven't been many stats in this game, just by virtue of the fact that it has been relatively low scoring. Over halfway through, so as I understand it, the timed half has been called, so this is potentially a Galaxy point situation, though Benjamin Rees, keeping our stats clean, will confirm that when he's finished his discussions with the local scorekeepers. And massive thank you to all of our volunteers here at this amazing tournament. Separation downfield, Kmetsova just looks over the head, but there is a miscommunication in the short field, and a really enviable opportunity here for Shout to punch in a break. This would mean quite a lot in these stages, because of course Mooncup started on offense. If this is half, then that's double duty if they can punch it in. Casarini has Kmetsova. Switch off downfield though, that is going to be a little bit too far. You could see the confusion on the face of Nada Tramonte. Nada. Lateral flow across. Kmetsova turns and faces Lefebvre, the favoured target, trying to go deep for this Mooncup side. Nice gainer on the far sideline instead. Looking very casual in those trackies. Now, next to be De Hasp is popping that forward. Swinging around to Collet. Collet, high but well handled. Bakochelin. Oh, and that's a beautiful attempt at the goal, but Perrine De Hasp is running a little bit out of gas as she runs it down. And a full stretch field for BFD Shout.
It was quite a low, it was a nice look, but it was quite low, and it definitely had a little bit of edge on it. It seemed to come back into the end zone fairly quickly. You see with that outside edge down, it does mean it's gonna, as it sort of fades back in at the end, it's gonna fade much more aggressively. And of course we do have some gusty winds here in the stadium. It's a little bit different from the field. You've got a bit more protection, but it does mean that sometimes that wind can kind of hit in slightly more unexpected ways. So some of those longer discs, you've really got to be quite sort of gentle with them. You've really got to make sure that they're sitting out in front so that we don't have them sort of pushed down and taken away from your player.
Kmetsova into Kublichka, huge effort on the defense. But back to Kmetsova. Of course, was representing with leftovers last season in the mixed division before coming across and joining Shout for this year. Casarini in, Tramonte. Now Cristofolini. Oh, there is space for Robaglia to just sneak away there. They think about it, but this is really solid hold. But there is the drop. That is such a shame. Cristofolini just with a straight up drop just shy of the end zone. Collet with the wind currently crosswind diagonally, so facing against, helping the zone of Shout. Crashing in, big reach it to Harris. There's a bit of a hat on the floor, doesn't cause any issues. So they start to nibble away. Bourneau nearly leaving Julia Harris out on an island. Throwing that one round the back. Good swinging. Now fine to Lefebvre. Collet again across to Harris. But that one, oh my goodness, how did she cling on to that one? Perrine De Hasp with the hands. Now dishing. This is really a war of attrition. Kicklin. Pushing it back. Bourneau. Couple of extra steps on that one. She's going to run out of room, surely. No. Sideline coaching calls it in. Good for Shout. Well, fantastic footwork there for Salomé Collet. Oh my goodness, now that is a ludicrous throw and a ludicrous layout goal. Do we expect anything less from Collet and Bourneau? No, we don't.
Well, I was just reflecting in my head on how calm their Mooncup offense had been and how they were doing such a great job of always just trusting that someone's going to be free and that they're the person you get it to. And they're so great at finding those inside options, but when they're not there, they know to reset. And just as that thought entered my mind, we saw that high pass to the far sideline having to be heroically towed in. And then just moments later, here we see that again. Such great presence of mind to keep that toe down and drag that in, make sure there was no question about it. And then looks infield, doesn't see anything she likes, and puts that really beautiful forehand up that just sits out, and a great reception.
Well, we should have had the timed half, but looks like from the scorekeepers we do not have the timed half at 5s taking 6. So it should be now. Is that the communication? Benji Rees is nodding. Well,
so that's, in theory, that's half time. The players haven't taken a half time, but it has passed. We can consider it having passed.
Well,
massive save.
Yeah, nothing gets past Erika Marcassini. It does fly over the reaching hands of Anna Czeski. Charlotte Schall with an absolute peach of a flick. Elena Bengi roofs her matchup. I think that might be a Borno.
That was an against all odds catch. As that disc was released, that sort of seemed to have that backward sit on it that just makes you a little bit nervous. We see again the release of that inside put. Looks downfield, doesn't see what she likes, puts it up, but it just is sitting with that back edge down. Not sure how that's going to fly. And again, that position, the defense is there, but Bengi is not bothered. We'll make sure she gets hands to it. Despite the fact that it looked like it was already in the process of being D'd.
Yeah, basically, I feel like Elena Bengi should come out with her own line of ice-cold beverages. Because I don't know what it is that she consumes on a regular basis to make her have literal ice in her veins. There is no situation where I've ever seen Elena Bengi look remotely flustered or bothered on a Frisbee pitch, even when she's having to go pinch for pinch against the likes of France's best, Lison Bonneau, added to, of course, this roster to join this European Ultimate Championship finals. They weren't there to qualify, but I'm sure Moon were glad to have them along for the journey.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think backing yourself and believing that you're going to come down with it often is a lot of the challenge.
Well, that is a shot way over the head of Charlotte Terrason, and here we see a quick counter-attack potential. Anna Czeski coming out for the defensive line of Shout, where she used to belong back in the day. Of course, a really high Frisbee IQ, so you can't deny her that shot on the O-line. And look at that, picked out of the air, but thrown into the waiting, poaching defender. Massive block for Mooncup to keep possession alive here. So Borno, where is that one through? Thanks to Koshin. This time they do connect with Terrason. High release, just sailing on the far side. De Hasp. Looked like there was a moment where Pancotti thought about flustering the arm out to deny. Able to crash in and crunch with the short spacing between the handlers. Still count rising. It's a blade over the top, but that is going to just about make it. Delizon Borno. Hang time for the pass to Terrason, but travel is going to be called.
Yeah, run down, and I think brought in a little bit further down the field than perhaps she exited the field. Yeah, brought it back in line with where she stopped running, not where she actually came out of the field. So that's been a travel called, and everyone has to reset.
little chat between Nader Tramont, the North American. Inside, but that's a smack away from Ravaglia. What a fantastic read of the offense. Casarini stretching it deep, Pancotti coming underneath. Czeski had focused on the reset, but great communication from the sideline to alert the number 31 of the opportunity that awaited her. Ravaglia. Oh, that's a bit of creativity. Kmetsova collects, and that is at long last another break of score in this game. Well, that's two on the bounce after a period of trading, and Shout put themselves in front 7-6 over Mooncup as we start to see the clock run just under half an hour.
Yeah, they've been trading down this whole game, so that's the first time Shout are actually taking a lead, which is not the usual story of how Shout's games go. So this will definitely be something that they're going to look to build on and make sure they try and make this a momentum shift in their favor. We've said, as you mentioned previously, this game has come in waves. We've had two points. That got a little bit disrupted just previously as both teams kind of put the pedal to the metal and tried to make something happen. We've seen some nice sort of clean points, and now we're seeing another break for Shout to just edge them out in front. Mooncup still looking like they're sort of bringing it together, but just some really smart defense from Shout, popping out in, reading the play really well and being able to position themselves as they anticipate that sort of toss into the middle going. And we saw beautiful read, beautiful block, getting the possession back there for the break.
Yeah, Ravaglia was the player who read the opposition exceptionally well and knocked that out of bounds.
Number 51, Sarah Ravaglia, has had three blocks already in this game. Just reading the offense like a book and positioning herself absolutely flawlessly.
She really is an underrated athlete, because she's not got kind of, you know, the obvious rangy stature that you see in a lot of D-line players. She is just a powerhouse, but the IQ of her is just undeniable. She really has a fantastic sense of the game, and that is what makes her, in combination with her ruthless athleticism, such a wonderful addition to this Bolognese side. Swing all the way across to Harris. Now, are they going to try and find the room on the sideline? No. Rollet. Stalkout starting to rise. A little bit of cheeky double teaming from Pancotti. Just flashing in front. A little bit of a stumble from Rollet. Perhaps off some bumping on the mark from Pagliarini. A little bit of sitting and waiting. But that one is going to go straight to the floor. Terrasson with the 12 to try and collect. But disc in the hands of Charlotte Schall. There's a bump elsewhere off the disc. Just watching Giovannini return to her legs. Or to her feet, rather. And we see that forward pass. That definitely wasn't an open option, just the disc came out too low. It does feel like the zone is really forcing separation from the handlers and the cutters for Mooncup, and the cutters being quite distant. So although that pass was open, there's sort of a little bit of tension trying to move the disc from the handler area downfield, and Shout are rewarded with the turn and have the possession now for another break. Oh, that's a beautiful lash to the back corner. And what another roof. Well, I have to say, in the latter stages of this game, Rachel, things are going in favor of Shout. That's another 50-50 shot into the end zone. 3 on the bounce for BFD Shout, and it's Gaia Pancotti with the snatch.
So far in the game, the sort of the Shout offense really just didn't feel like what we've come to see from them over this season and over previous seasons. And it does feel like they've perhaps like got a little bit more into their groove as the game's worn on. Maybe that shot is quite ambitious, it's quite aggressive, but you know, we're used to seeing that from them. They really back their receivers and they're not afraid to take on whether it's deep shots or kind of ambitious inside shots. And it just feels like it's flowing a little bit more for them at this stage. And you know, hand in hand with that, their defense also seems to be really doing the job as Mooncup are sort of struggling to find downfield yards, moving the disc forwards in the face of that zone. So yeah, 2 breaks on back-to-back, taking the score 8-6, Shout up.
And we have a half-time being taken finally. We've had some sensible action from the Shout sideline, realising and having a conversation with the scorekeepers and saying, no, even though Benjamin Rees went and had a chat with them and said, hey, this is what should be happening right now, they sort of didn't respect the authority and the wisdom of ULTI.TV. So we're getting a delayed half-time, but it is happening. Shout will receive to start the second half, see if they can get that buy one, get one free action for that break in the late stages. Well, Doug Cam will fade us out. A very quick break here, but don't go anywhere, folks. Women's quarterfinals will continue.
There are so many reasons to outfit your team in Force beyond just looking the part of a champion. Force offers professional design services with their dedicated graphics team. All apparel is produced in France. Force works with a local labour team and their raw materials are sourced in Europe. Force insists on transparency with no hidden fees and international express shipping. Look the part and play the part with Force Sportswear.
Have you seen our VO streams? Do you know that VO cameras are built for more tactical team sport analysis? The inbuilt tracking technology allows you to see the game in finer detail. That's why teams are already using it, and ULTI.TV and EUF are teaming up to help you join VO. Contact EUF administration to get more details.
Second half just about to start. Well, this is why rules knowledge and use is so very important, folks. Knowing what the format is, it changes almost every single tournament you play as an Ultimate player. Some tournaments have timed halves, other tournaments don't. Some have different score caps, some have different game lengths. However, it is all part of the self-management of this sport. Maybe some sour grapes at the end of this for Mooncup, but they only have themselves to blame of not having the timed half that they could have had earlier on in the standings, which would not have resulted in the buy one get one free effect by the delayed half at a points cap. So Shout, though, deservedly coming out and getting those breaks of score. Of course, if it had just started off as it should have, because that was sort of the discussion Benji's reason had with the scorekeepers. We did inform them, doing our best here just to put that information out there, but we have no authority. We are but spectators. So,
Despite having scored the last point, Shout are receiving the pull as this sort of half-time that wasn't a half-time has been completed.
yeah, we're just getting a delayed half, but that is how it used to be played in the old school. Oh, but that is a beautiful throw, and Charlotte Schau on the end of it. But hats off to Erika Marchesini. That was a huge boost and a very quick score for Shout.
Mooncup defense just never really seeming to be able to get set there. Shout certainly came out, moved it quickly, And then, as you say, big arcing backhand that sat out nicely to space. Charles having to make sure she gets there under pressure, tight defense, but no problem. That's a catch that she's going to make every day of the week. She's done it 1,000 times before, and no stranger to doing it under pressure from some of the best players in Europe.
Well, Marcassini will be 22 now. It was a returner from last year's, when they were known as KUSP Shout roster. Started playing because she had lessons in high school with, and I quote, the beautiful Arturo Laffi. So that was what brought this young athlete into the sport. And says hello to all of her friends and family watching her at home, watching her throw absolute bombs deep into the end zone. That's going to be a roller pull, but won't make it beyond half field because that rolls backwards. Will be brought into play. So Mooncup looking to try and fight back here after conceding quite a few on the bounce. That's 4 unanswered for BFD Shout. A slow start, but they found a little bit more magic. And certainly as well on defense, these zony, saggy looks starting to make Mooncup question. They don't have the strength of connections, but that's lovely for Rollet. Can she get there on the second effort? No, she cannot. That is denied by Sarti. Now Pancotti, or Poppy, picks it up and throws nearly a spoiler. That was all that Nadia Tremonte could do to keep her paws on that. A fellow athlete from Arlington, Virginia, because of course Julia Harris on Mooncup, the number 15, also from that neck of the woods. So it's the Arlington, Virginia Cup, maybe you could say. But that one is the goal, and another unanswered for Shout. They found the magic formula from the clipboards of their coaches. And a timeout being called here by Mooncup. Rather unsurprising, Rachel.
Yeah, they need to do something. They need to pull something out the bag and find a new level. Shout being so smart in their defense. That did look like a slightly different formulation. They've played a couple different zones. They look similar, but they're slightly different around the handlers. That one having number 3, Alisa Capucci, really marking out that dump space, making that kind of inside line look really appealing. But as we saw, it's really hard to hit, and that arcing around shot is very, very playable for the defense. The rest of the team hustling to get there and ensure that even as that throw goes up, it's absolutely punished. And that turned over with such a short field. That zone absolutely doing its job. Really phenomenal work.
We will get a brief break here in the timeout. We'll be back though with the conclusion of this game after these brief messages.
We are a group of ultimate players, coaches and video enthusiasts. We've worked with the major federations and the greatest events.
We're on a mission to make Ultimate huge. We want our videos and live streams to be free to watch.
We want to make stories that not only reach you,
but also reach people outside the Ultimate community.
Like and subscribe, ULTI.TV, the best in the world.
Become a member and
fund
fund
our work to cover more events in the future and to bring more stories and live coverage to the eyes of the Ultimate world and beyond.
We are Hive Ultimate, a group of players and coaches from all over the world working together to progress the next generation of Ultimate strategy. We've helped top teams win world championships and new teams introduce the sport in a fun and inclusive way. Search for Hive Ultimate on YouTube to learn more about our cutting-edge strategies and to see analysis of world-class teams. To find out what Hive can do for your team, head over to our Patreon page where you can gain access to our exclusive drills and session plans and to join our worldwide community of coaches. Get ahead of the curve with Hive Ultimate.
He's in a great spot. He's in a perfect spot. Yes, his massive head has blocked everything. That was a huge play, but we have seen none of it. Finny, he's done it.
Well, the hot take from the sideline, you have to deserve the win. For the Italian coaches, you cannot just wait for your opponents to give you the win. The adjustments, though, certainly Shout threading them together much more effectively. There's a big old Bosch in the center pitch. Julia Harris just hip bumping Rabaglia. But both athletes happy to play through it. De Hasp now swinging around to Jolle. This is much more like the confidence we saw earlier stages. De Hasp streaking through. Now back to Jolle. Harris is going to have plenty of time to milk every inch out of that pass. And an easy one to the front cone. Well, that is more like it for Mooncup. Maïwen Leduc picks up a goal here, and that at long last gives them a point on the board after the unanswered run of 5 to run away with the advantage here in this game. 10-7 to Shout with just shy of 14 minutes remaining on the game clock.
Yeah, the time is running low. Maybe there might be a sort of a significant margin that's hard to come back from in the time allowed, but there's stranger things have happened, and we've already seen a number of huge comebacks even just today. But we mentioned adjustments that Shout have made and how that's kind of put them in top gear on defense and really kind of brought their offense into sort of the sort of smooth and flowing dynamics that we're used to seeing. But I do think that Mooncup point, that offense there, having that fourth handler back, again, a really smart adjustment. They've seen that they're under a lot of pressure around the handlers. That cup is pretty brutal, and by having that fourth player back, they can just keep swinging, moving the disc laterally, forcing the cup out of space, and then eventually find the middle area where they can make those big gainers and get the disc moving quickly.
So Shout coming back out on offense for the first time in a little while. Charlotte Shout takes that lateral pass. Then back into the central position for Bonfante, but some kind of call downfield, a collision with Czeszki just getting up from the turf. Looks to be an accepted foul from Nadezhda Bergen. All right, they're going to discuss it a little bit. Lots of shout outs for Mooncup. Lovely to have a lively live chat alongside us. If you haven't already hit the like button, the thumbs up, please do feel free, folks. And big shout out also to the wonder from down under herself, fellow ULTI.TV commentator Elshak. Now this is nice movement upfield though after the brief pause. Sorrenti pops back. Oh, that's a slightly riskier biscuit, but great grab from Anna Czeszki. This time not the greatest from Marcassini, but it pays off. And the wind really starting to howl and rise, but it knocks it out of contention. Francesca Sorrenti closes the hands too early, and it just bounces off her knees. Oh my goodness. Well, that had all the feist on it in the universe. But turns it back over centre field. Bonfante held on to that for a little while, but it comes out wonky. And Charlotte Schall under pressure, unable to connect.
That was a gusty 30 seconds, and the wind has just completely dropped.
Well, giving an extra bit of challenge. That one is indeed challenging. Bonfante collects off the miscue. Lolly pops through to Czeszki. Oh, trying to go on the run. Charlotte Schall just hanging out underneath it and vipping up. Travel call, pops back. Another travel call. Well, I tell you what, there's nothing to stop the flow of Anna Czeszki, and this time Sorrenti does collect fine. Spins all the way around, might just have to chuck it and hope. No, has Marcassini last minute, but there is a missed connection. Thinking that either athlete was going to hit that front cone, but no one knew what Marcassini was thinking.
Yeah, just a little bit too gung-ho, just needed to take a second, make sure. Similarly, needed to take a second and make sure of that catch. That one goes gifted straight back to Shout.
I feel like it's a very familiar situation. We've rewound the tape to point number 1 where we had 12 turnovers in total. It's becoming a bit of a scrappy point here, but Bonfante may well seal us off. Central position for Cheshki, but they keep the disc flowing and moving and changing the angle constantly. Shout now a long hold. Bonfante being asked to come out for a bit more of a super dump, but it's a high release on the front cone. No, not quite. Just shy of the tape, and it is literal tape out here on the turf field. Foul being called as we see the mark take a big bump and fall to the turf. Well, it is getting warm, literally and metaphorically. The players heating up as the sun emerges from behind the clouds. Sorrenti seeking, or just tosses one over the shoulder, and it is Chiaraloli with the goal. The number 17. In fact, it's a 16-17 Chiara action for this Shout roster, but they are racing away with it, 11-7.
Shout very happy just to keep working it into that same corner there. I think most teams with the sort of the kind of normal approach, normal is not the right word, just the kind of maybe more routine approach to the offense would be looking to swing that and attack from the other side, and if in doubt, swing it again and attack from the other side and keep changing that angle of direction. But as we said, the Italians are so comfortable working in small spaces. They make those jinking passes. They're happy to do those kind of lofty dishes and find space where you'd think there was no space, and we just saw that as they just hammered away at that corner until something stuck. An interesting point from earlier on, Anna Chesky getting a number of travel calls on her. I think her attitude to just quickly accept the call, bring the disc back in, is something that I think maybe a lot of teams sort of can struggle with a bit. You know, the desire to argue, or sometimes you just slow down the game, but really working to make sure that the call does not disrupt that flowing offense, does not disrupt that quick movement, just quickly taking it back and bringing the disc in meant that the Shout side were able to keep that momentum despite multiple calls.
Well, I talked earlier about the ice products that Elena Bengi must be consuming because of how unflustered she is at all times. You do occasionally see the passion rising for Anna Chesky, but as you say, it is a real credit to hold your mental fortitude in those moments, and that is what Mooncup now need to do. We know they've got the talent, the athleticism and the throws, but do they have the nerve? Of course, being a cluster of athletes that haven't trained together quite so often. So you see Rollet with the high catch there, making some nice moves, but not huge gainers against the wind, which is now determinedly returned to being a crosswind, I think. Of course, the directions of the various flags around the sports complex also indicating how the stadium here changes the nature and causes it to swirl ever so often. Terrasom receiving the blade and popping into Harris. Has good lateral spacing. Lison Borneau hanging around in the end zone or just near, but that is going to be too much to ask of the young athlete wearing the number 18, or is that 13?
I believe that's a 13.
There we go, will that be Ava then?
Yeah, a heroic effort, putting her body on the line, throwing herself around, but even if she'd managed to catch that one, I think that would have been difficult to keep her toes in. Still, really putting in a shift and trying to keep her teammate and her head in the game, leaving it all on the field, as they're going to have to do if they want to close this gap, with the time ticking down, just 5 minutes left on the clock.
Absolutely. Well, a nice, solid, swinging start. Kmetsova calls the timeout immediately in live play. I'm not sure how I feel about that one. They've got good positioning on the field, but what do you reckon in the live chat, folks? Do you think that's a turnout or a time over or a burn and turn, depending on your jargon of choice? Let's find out, though. Shout currently in the lead, 11-7.
We live in a world where everything can be referenced online. Imagine if the greatest moments in our sport were never filmed. Eurodisc continues to do what it takes to make free-to-watch live streams a reality. Let's leave nothing to the imagination. We'll consume the action live, and we'll support those that help to make it happen. If it wasn't streamed, it didn't happen. Eurodisc.
What a grab! Oh my God! Somehow they do it!
The live chat delivereth. Hello to you, Ian French. Frenchie, lovely to have you alongside us. Of course, clearly a fan of Dog Cam because of Russell, the Super Corgi. Of course, one of the most famous Frisbee dogs that we know. Not because he plays any Frisbee dog, but just because he is the dog of two amazing contributors to the European Ultimate scene. But an excellent point he puts in the live chat. Rachel?
Yeah, 4 minutes to go, perfect field position, probably a smart use of a timeout. And I have to say, my thoughts exactly. You know that they've got a big hill to climb to come back. If you can run down this clock a little bit, I'm not sure how aware of the time they are, but if that was the thought process, then kudos to them for being very strategic.
Well, Sarti coming around for the button hook, which he indicated with the cheeky head tilt, just as that play started with Kmetsova. Angelica Sarti with a matching headband look to Kmetsova. Very similar statured as well. That's a little bit of a miscue, but great redemption for herself. Capucci, one of the youngsters on this Bolognese side. But that is a flub into nobody. Angelica Sarti is going to want that one back. But she'll have to play some dogged defense to do it. Half field, and Eva Borno. Guns and runs. Harris now to De Hasp. Borno with some weird movement in front of the disc despite playing against the zone. Not even looking at the thrower. Unusual. That one though finds the target to Harris. A little bit of a slip for De Hasp. Perhaps going to think about creativity. Indeed. Oh, Sarti has to pull out of that one at last minute, but it's a big old bosh for the hands of Elisa Capucci. One or two of the Capucci sisters, of course. How could we have neglected to mention that until this point? But Sarti's going to have to redeem, and she doesn't hang on to it. Makes the bid, but at least a bit more field position this time on the turnover for BFD Shout. They reapply the jaws of that zone. To Koenig. Such experience, such poise, happy to throw well into Callahan County. Danger, danger. That one goes all the way across, but no one wants to take on the matchup for Rollet. Lovely blade. Kmetsova putting pressure underneath it, but it's Borno at the back, making the clutch grab. Harris sort of jogging downfield, not stretching too much. Leave that work to Lefebvre on the far sideline. Harris opens it up now, though. The throw is there, and so is the goal with 15 seconds remaining on the game clock. Mooncup hold on and take their scoreline 8 to the 11 of Shout, but they've got quite the hill to climb. Time will now expire between these 2 points, so play the first and then +1 as we see, wow, Mooncatchers arriving in the stadium fields. That signals that they must have finished off their game already. Of course, everyone expecting Mooncatchers, the open variant coming out of Brussels, to cruise their way through to the final with ease, because they've had quite the full season stretch, not lost a final at this point in 2023 have Mooncatchers.
Yeah, very, very strong showing, and then here to support their sister team, Mooncups.
How do you feel about the Mooncup name? Are you a fan, Rachel?
I'm a fan, why not?
I love it.
Yeah.
Especially if it marginally makes those that don't have menses on a regular basis ever so slightly have to take a moment to think.
Yeah, I just like mentioning Mooncups. I like thinking about Mooncups.
They're a great product. And if you don't know what a Mooncup is, Google it.
The more we can normalize the term, beautiful, beautiful work from this team.
especially useful for people that want to be more sustainable maybe, or people that don't have regular accesses to other such products. But anyway, enough about that, more about the Frisbee. Bonfante getting us started to Charlotte Schall. Bengi just trotting away dangerously towards the end zone, but stumbling underneath. How does she still make that huge catch after almost tripping over her own laces? Bengi, feisty through to Marchesini. She's had some real moments of bliss and real moments of what ifs, but it's Lawley now. Bengi racing through, hitting that break side bounce, but a little bit too late. Huge layout from Deluc. And that's going to be a quick run, lateral across the front of the end zone. Who else but Francesca Sorrenti, the long-time Shout athlete, coming through and getting possibly the penultimate point of this game if Shout can take it on defense. But that will add us game to 13 here on the stadium field as time expires and runs over onto that 15-minute gap between games. So predictions here, Rachel. Do we think that Mooncup are going to hold? Do you think they're going to go on any runs of breaks? Because Shout really seem to have found some form in the latter stages of this game.
Yeah, I wonder, I think Mooncup might have a point or so left in them, but I really feel like Shout have made the necessary adjustments, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a break here for the game, but I also think Mooncup have, really been demonstrating some real class and form, and hopefully that this will be a great experience for them to try and bring that out now under the kind of the looming pressure of the game point. So we are in the time cap now, 2 minutes extra. So it is a game to 13, or should be. Oh, that's a lovely big backhand, but there's going to be a big chase underneath it. But Borno, of course, streaking through and winning the battle with that extra little bit of nitrous oxide in the hip flexors and the jets of the feet. Harris. This is all just squeezing down the far sideline under the attack of the match coverage chosen for this outing for the defense. Rabalia, oh, but that opens up an opportunity, and it is Salome Jole into Julia Harris to make it 12-9, still game to 13, we play on. So there's the hold for Mooncup, job one is complete. Now you hand it to the defense, see what they can do with it. Yeah, wouldn't be surprised if we see that same line that were just out there for Shout. It's that offensive line that have been so able to really piece together some really clean points. I think that's who they're going to look for, and then I'd be unsurprised if we didn't see a clean hold for the win. All right, we interrupt our regular programming to bring you some score updates. This women's division is so hotly contested this season. The biggest scoreline difference is going to be Jinx Box Vienna, 14-10, the current score still ongoing over on field 2. East Block are level pegging with Troubles of Warsaw. Who would have seen that coming? Both on 13, so a really rapid scoring game. Yaka have handed Icini's letter of resignation to the bottom of the championship bracket to them. I'm pretty sure 13-4 the scoreline for the Noisy-le-Sec outfit over the Londoners. But of course, they got themselves back at the top of the standings, back home in the UK for the first time since 2017. So there was a little bit of commiserations in there. And of course, this one, game to 13, we have it in front of us. Mooncup fighting to stay in the top spots here. This will push them out into finals. And an out-of-bounds pull is going to give Bonfante enviable position. She hasn't gotten on the stats board apart from that one block, but just such a key central cog. And it's a trade. Underneath comes Cheshki, bringing Borno into the space with her. Bit of zone being played by Mooncup. Can Shout just
do the thinking required, the choice, the selections. Plenty of spacing for Czeszki on the near sideline taken. Charlotte Schall attacking towards that middle spot, but can't quite get it there over the cup. In fact, looks like more or less the old FSU zone, and it does pay a dividend on the far sideline. Maïwen Leduc coming in, but that's Marcassini tipping it, but not quite well enough. Big feisty, leathery one, and what a play! Jolene Catrin keeping the disc alive. Bengi stumbling around, trying to deny Rahali. They're playing like it's universe out here, and I'm excited for it. Bengi too, trying to deny Catrin. Colleen pops back. Bourneau to Harris. All the way around. Looking for those resets, but squeaking it through to Leduc instead. Now back and around. Harris has the separation on the break side. Can they continue? Thinks of, oh, that is a quirky lefty release. It bounces, but Leduc is so cleanly available on the break side that the break of score is gained for Mooncup, and that'll be a feather to their bow. But can they shoot down BFD Shout, who have the 2-point margin? That's match point number 2. But they've got plenty left.
Yeah, interesting to see who Shout put out now, whether they keep that line. I think they're mixing it up a little bit, bringing out some fresh legs, but just seemed a little bit too casual playing against that zone defense from Mooncup. That zone really designed to rattle, make the separation between the handlers and the downfield space. They were moving it, Shout were moving it around the back really nicely, finding those swings, and then just sort of got a little bit over ambitious, tried to put quite a sort of deep high pass to connect with the downfield cutters, but Mooncup were all over that. Just didn't quite have the level of sort of intention that was needed in a game point situation. But now they have another opportunity, and if they want to try and make sure they close this out tidily, they really need to just put this in, because 12-10 is a very, very different scoreline to 12-11.
It certainly is, Rachel. That required 13 connections to be held solidly. In fact, all of the last passes, more or less, in fact, most of them in the second half for Mooncup have required double digits, 13, 16 and 13, with 1-9 amongst the pack. So not the hugest tallies in the world, but Bonfante, less enviable field position, finds herself towards Bengi. Marcassini, with of course the trade out at this point versus the last of Chiara Loli being played out for Pagliarini, the safer pair of hands from the D-line who can get those blocks back. Bengi with a little stumble, but all smiles. That's a huge play though from Leduc. She uses the arms, but I think a strip is going to be called by Bonfante. She'll have a chat and see what the resolution is, but that was such a play. Well, there is the clap catch. How long it stayed in the hands of Bonfante, I don't know.
Yeah, unsure if it's a strip or a foul call.
Well, hand-on-hand action seems viable from the replay of a foul call. And of course, you're not allowed to slap the opponent's hands, even if you go, well, I touched the disc first.
Yeah, it was an excellent defensive effort. Whether it will stand, coming back. Oh, a little bit of amusement on the field as it looked like someone immediately started playing D, but actually we're just resetting back to where the disc previously was.
So
but love the intensity.
Yeah, contested foul. And a little bit of extra rules knowledge and use for you. Incidental contact after making a clean play on the disc, rather than at the same time as making a play on the disc, you are actually allowed, it's not considered a foul. It is to be avoided, it's frowned upon, but that's not going to cause any frowns for Mooncup, because that's going to give them the possession back on the far sideline. Kmetsova matching up against Bourneau. Oh, but that's Marchesini with denial and defence. Charlotta Schall off towards the end zone. She's going to have to be backed up by somebody because it's a little bit short of the tape. Bengi watches that one all the way into her hands. Pagliarini. Marchesini to Schall. Oh, and she pops it over the tape. Charlotta Schall, the gold medalist from EUC with Team Germany Women, punches that last bit of the scorecard for BFD Shout. They are going into semi-finals later on this evening.
Definitely all smiles for the Shout side. They made the adjustments they needed to make. They started the game slowly. They started a little bit more sloppy, a little bit less able to connect, but boy, did they turn that around, really getting into that game and putting so much pressure on Mooncup. Mooncup playing really well throughout the game, a little bit scrappy, a little bit kind of feisty, finding those inside breaks, but some really lovely connections and great pressure on defense. And that final point with all those turns, just demonstrating how invested both sides were in making sure they end this game strong. And at 13-10, that's a great showing for this women's quarterfinal.
Well, that will wrap us up. Mooncup knocked out into finals, looking at a brief break. The break chances here that Shout had, they really need to get better at being effective with the disc when they have their opportunities, if they're going to see themselves retain, of course, that championship title from 2022. But for myself, Hannah Pendlebury, for Rachel Douglas, we are going to bounce out here because we will be bringing you back-to-back action here, of course, on Stadium Field. On this pitch, we're going to have Marchot from France against Deep Space from Great Britain. Don't go anywhere, folks. We will see you on the other side.
Thanks.
Yeah, Ultimate.
ULTI.TV.